Hey guys, it's Measley, and welcome to part 3 of my Secret Shops videos. In this one, I'm going to be covering faction-specific vendors. This time, I tried to keep the vendors a little more relevant by filtering out those that don't really sell very valuable items. So enjoy! Let's start with the Alliance first. The first vendor on this list is Little Timmy, who spawns in Stormwind, and he sells the White Kitten pet. Aside from taking the same route every time, then despawning, he doesn't seem to have a set time that he spawns at. But he seems to spawn once every 1 to 3 hours. Aside from that, he also seems to spawn upon server reset. He only sells one cat per spawn, so be sure to pounce on him if you see him. For another vendor in Stormwind, we have Cheris Ysarian in the Mage Quarter. Make sure to select all classes from the drop-down menu when you're buying from her to display every item that she's selling. As you can see here, she sells a variety of weapons and belts. For our next vendor, head east to the Old Town. Go into this building here and look for the Legacy, Justice, and Valor vendors. Once again, select all classes from the top right drop-down menu, and you'll find that there are a lot of different bind-on-equip boots that you can buy and resell. There are also bracers, but I do not recommend reselling these. Lastly, make sure you check both the Legacy, Justice, and Valor vendors, as they each sell different boots. For our next Alliance vendors, we'll be heading to Darkshire in Duskwood. For our first vendors, go inside this building here, go upstairs, and there are 2 sisters here that each sell some special tailoring recipes. Next, head to the blacksmith building here, and look for the armorsmith inside the building, and then the weaponsmith who stands outside the building. Again, make sure you're selecting all classes from the drop-down. Taking a look at the vendors here, the armorer sells cloaks and pants. The weaponsmith sells 2 different weapons. And the tailoring sister sells 2 patterns for shirts and 1 pattern for robes. For our next Alliance vendor, we're going to be heading to Ironforge. Go to the Great Forge and head inside this building in the north. Go upstairs where you'll find Outfitter Eric, who sells a bunch of patterns for a tuxedo look. Looking at what he sells here, he sells patterns for 3 tuxedo patterns and 2 for mage weave shirts. After Ironforge, we're going to be heading to Menethil Harbor in the Wetlands. Look for the vendor standing on this cart right here, and you'll find that she sells some cloaks. After that, head over to the blacksmith, who sells 2 different weapons, though I wasn't able to find anything this time around. Looking at what he could sell, there's the Executioner's Sword and the Blessed Claymore. As for the one in the cart, she can sell some cloaks and belts. After that, we're going to be flying over to Dunmotor, also in the Wetlands. And after that, we're going to fly a little bit to the northwest and fly until we reach Swiftgear Station. Once you're here, go inside the bunker and talk to Wenna Silkbeard. She's one of the few vendors that sells shoulders, and she also sells cloaks and belts. For the next vendor, we're going to be heading to Hellfire Peninsula in Outland, and look for the Temple of Telhamat in the northwest corner. The vendor of interest is Tahara right here, who sells some pretty rare and valuable weapons. As you can see here, she sells the Warphorn Spear and the Mahari Fighting Claw. For our next vendor on the Alliance side, we're going to be heading to Stormshield in Draenor and head inside this town hall where you'll find some reputation vendors that sell pets. To purchase them, you'll have to unlock various reputation levels with each of the respective factions. By the way, the Horde also has access to the Erikoa Outcasts as well as the Steamweedle Cartel, but the Council of Exarchs and its pet are Alliance exclusive, and also why it might fetch for a higher price on the auction house. As for our last vendor, it's the Shatari defense vendor in the Alliance garrison. To unlock this vendor, you'll have to have the trading post in your garrison, and to be able to buy the pet, you'll have to have revered reputation with the Shatari defense. And that concludes the Alliance side of things. Now we'll move on to the vendors for the Horde. First are the vendors in Orgrimmar that mirror the Legacy, Justice, and Valor Quartermasters in Stormwind. So like their Alliance counterparts, look for the boots that they sell. For our next vendor, we're going to be heading to the Crossroads. Head to the south side of the camp and look for Halia Whitestrider. She sells a large variety of items, but note that the shirts are not limited quantity. For our next vendor, it's going to be another one that has an Alliance twin, and that'll be Millie Gregorian in the Mage Quarter of the Undercity. Like the tuxedo guy in Ironforge, she also sells some patterns for the tuxedo outfit as well as some for robes. After that, head to the Hillsbrad Foothills and go to the South Point Gate. There's a guy here under this covering that sells some weapons. After that, head to Terran Mill, still in Hillsbrad Foothills, and go to this guy here called OTT. He sells some of the same weapons the previous guy does, but also sells a lot more things. The first vendor sells the Blessed Claymore and the Executioner's Sword. As you can see here, Ott also sells both of those weapons, plus 5 additional weapons. Next, we're going to be going to Outland again, and this time on the Horde side, we want to go to Falcon Watch in Hellfire Peninsula. Look for Falesh Sunfallow here on the lower tier of the camp, and look for the special weapons that he sells. Remember again to switch to all classes when you're purchasing from him. The polearm that he sells in particular looks quite unique. Besides that, just like his Alliance counterpart, he also sells the Makari Fighting Claw. Next up, we're going to be going to Warspear in Draenor, and inside Warspear Hold, you'll find the same reputation vendors as the ones we talked about for Alliance. The exception is that besides the Steamweedle Cartel and the Erikoa Outcasts, the third faction that the Alliance doesn't have is the Frostwolf clan. At Revered Reputation, you can begin to purchase and resell the Frostwolf pup pet. As for our last vendor on the list, we're going to be going to the Draenor Garrison. To unlock this vendor, you'll have to first have the trading post. Then once you hit Revered Reputation with the Laughing Skull vendor here, you'll be able to purchase the Bone Wasp pet to resell. By the way, all of these Draenor Reputation pets, including the Alliance ones, require Apexis crystals aside from gold to buy. And you can get Apexis crystals pretty quickly by doing the Tanan Jungle quests and by doing some of the garrison missions as well as killing rare elites. And that does it for episode 3 of Secret Shops. If you guys liked it, feel free to leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for more guides like this. I know I haven't been posting as much lately, but it is the content drop before Battle for Azeroth, and I do have a lot of things in store for the release of Battle for Azeroth, so definitely stay tuned for more guides. But before that, peace out guys. I'll see you in the next one.